And the time is 6:02 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? All right. And let's see here. Keith, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Changes to the agenda?
Yes. I'd like to add an opening statement and include elected officials to speak afterward, should they like to speak, and then a closing statement towards the end of the public hearing.
Okay. All right. So are you all right if I start then, or you wanted to start?
Well, you have chairman's opening remarks, so I'm happy to speak right after that.
Okay. So typically on public hearings, I just make a brief announcement about code of conduct, and all public comment and testimony will be civil and respectful. Address the Board of County Commissioners and not the audience. Address issues and not persons. Refrain from applause as it interferes with due process. Do raise your hands in agreement with the speaker. And I believe that we have 3 minutes allotted per speaker, but I don't think we have that many speakers, so I don't know that we're going to need to adhere to that strictly. So with that, I do have my opening comments, but did you want to go first? Is that what you're saying?
If that's okay, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
I want to thank everyone for coming out here tonight. It was I who sought a public hearing to discuss why we're funding a $38 million Justice Center expansion project that was initially proposed to cost only $22 million about 19 months ago. Tonight, my hope is that you will have answers to the who, what, when, where, and how we got here, so you can understand how the Justice Center project has been managed and what it will do to our county finances. It's important that you understand its potential to reduce our cushion of savings to the point that it virtually eliminates any margin for error, and how that affects our ability to rebuild our cash reserves and manage any major unforeseen expenses. This has been a difficult process for me to walk into this project after much of it had been predetermined prior to my start date in January. Literally just weeks before, in December of 2022, the previous board allocated an additional $4.3 million of ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act money, to the Justice Center expansion, thereby totaling it to almost $26.4 million. The previous board knew this was going to dig into county savings and be a lot more expensive than the total available ARPA funds assigned to it. There's no question I believe the Justice Center expansion is a badly needed project. In fact, it was presented as a $35 million project last March, and I voted for it. And that included all of the floors, which I believe we should build if we can. But I was also told that we had enough money to pay for both the $35 million four-story Justice Center expansion and finish the jail pods. In fact, the primary reason I agreed to this project, and the reason why I am so frustrated with what has happened, was because I was told by my contemporary, the project lead, on March 21, 2023, when I was just 2 months into this job, that we had $15 million we could spend, and if we allocated $6 million to the Justice Center and $6 million to the jail pods, we'd still have extra money left over. And that statement, which should have been based on real numbers, turned out to be factually false. But that's what was told to me, and I voted yes because of it. We also need to complete these pods because not only is the county jail extremely overcrowded, which increases county and ultimately taxpayer liability, it also means we will not be forced to let criminals back out onto the street due to overcrowding. There is no difference in my mind between bail reform and an overcrowded jail if the end result is letting criminals back out into our community. They both affect public safety, and that's not who we are. Tonight, other people will tell you how the county has enough money to complete this building project, among the others, and that construction expenses are actually coming in under budget. You might hear that we have more money in the future that has not been booked yet to help pay for everything, so you should not be concerned. And it is true that the construction component of this project is actually coming in slightly better than expected, a little over $900,000 better. While that's good news, the problem isn't with the construction company. They're the only part who has really had a handle on the cost, and it seems to be coming in below their estimates since last March. And you will also likely hear how cost overruns are typical and normal. That is correct. But you usually budget for such overruns in advance. However, what is not normal, discussing how to pay for a $35 million project when certain people knew it was actually way over $38 million, and not having a discussion to determine where the money would come to pay for it until after the construction started, which is exactly what was allowed to happen. That's not normal. What is also not normal is keeping these numbers from the county's finance department. That's not normal either. But further, let me tell you what you probably won't hear from these people who say we have the money. You won't hear how we likely will have to draw down almost all of our savings so we won't have a reasonable cushion for unexpected expenses or revenue shortfalls. You won't hear how commissioners who say 2 to 2.5 months in emergency savings is okay today, we're actually claiming as recently as earlier this year we should have 3 months in emergency reserves. You won't hear these same people tell you how we also need to pay attention to the $5 to $7 million in future capital expenses we must make in the coming years. And by depleting our savings today, we will need to start almost from scratch, saving again to pay for these upcoming expenses. You won't hear how the people running this project had never built a $35 million multi-story commercial building before and are doing it without the benefit of an experienced professional whose fiduciary is to the county to ensure the county doesn't end up in financial hot water. You won't hear how depleting our savings means we'll earn less interest income, thereby further reducing our margin for error. You also won't hear how if revenues fall short or expenses are larger than expected, it could be you, the taxpayer, who will be asked to make up the shortfall because our financial cushion has been depleted. You won't hear how our treasurer recommends we have what is termed a fortress balance sheet that has to be rock solid. The more we have in savings, the more we can aggressively budget our revenues and expenses. This budgeting approach essentially keeps the county from overtaxing you. You won't hear how the county has been taxing you for unfilled or vacant jobs the last several years, but since they're not filled, the extra money is used as a cushion to address cost overruns, mid-year budget changes, and to replenish our savings. Since we have adjusted county salaries just this year in this most recent budget to be more competitive, to pay people at a more competitive rate, and we have promised our employees to fund the pay matrix each year, thereby ensuring that the high-performing employees stay with us and not leave for other agencies. It is very likely that those unfilled positions will be filled, and there will be significantly less money available for mid-year adjustments and unexpected expenses that we didn't budget for. It also means we have a lot less, if any, money to go toward future savings. This is why you're here tonight. So you can see the situation the county has been put into, and that if this board or future boards needs to raise your taxes, it could be largely driven by how this Justice Center expansion has been managed from a $22 million project to a $35 million project to today a $38.3 million project, because every week the non-construction cost numbers, those being managed by the people inside the county, seems to be constantly changing. To put this into perspective, when I finally saw the exact number for the total cost of the Justice Center on September 25, it was $38,329,405. Then just a week later, on October 2, it went up $300,000. Then another 3 days later, on October 5, it went up another $90,000. Then on October 12, it went up another $27,000, only for it to miraculously drop $400,000 this afternoon, just mere hours tonight, before tonight's meeting, to just $38,356,798. At this point, I cannot tell you what this project will ultimately cost the county. The numbers could go up or they could go down. I don't know. And there have been rumblings of other projects going past their estimated costs, but we haven't been afforded a meaningful discussion about them either and how they could affect our total savings. That's why I believe it's time for those managing this project to be transparent with you, like they should have been months ago when these project costs were known to be over $38 million. We've never discussed where the money is going to come from to pay for this $38 million building, along with the jail pods and sheriff's office expansion, until tonight. That's what we're hoping to accomplish here this evening. And after you hear where this money is going to come from tonight, you will understand how it might affect you in the future. Again, I thank you for attending tonight. Thank you.
All right. So my goal in voting record as a commissioner has always been paying only for the things that government is required to provide. The three projects of focus in order of imperative priority are the Justice Center expansion, jail pod build-out, and KCSO move to Hayden. The fact is the Justice Center expansion has been the county's priority for 4 years, in spite of the recent vote to elevate jail pods and the move. So summarizing the Administrative District Judge's 2022 letter, which is public record if anybody wants a copy of it. I'll just summarize it. The last courtroom added to Kootenai County was in 2009, back when the population was at 137,000. Today, the population is at 181,000, yet no new courtrooms have been added, despite this 32% growth in population. Kootenai County has 4 district judges, 9 magistrate judges, 2 district judges from Shoshone and Bonner counties who assist with criminal caseload, as well as magistrate judges from other counties who regularly assist. Scheduling 17 judges and 14 courtrooms is challenging. Of these 14 courtrooms, only 4 can accommodate jury trials. In 2017, there were 95 completed jury trials in Kootenai County. In 2023, we're on pace to complete 130 to 160. We have squeezed employees into spaces where they should not be, and we're out of supply closets and jury rooms to convert into courtrooms and offices. There is no more space. Let us not squander an opportunity to meet our constitutional and statutory mandate to provide justice services for the people of Kootenai County. The courts have been in dire straits for more than 5 years. The previous board voted to start this project in 2021, and the current board unanimously voted to continue forward with the project on June 26, 2023 at the $38 million price tag. Any changes at this point are likely to cost taxpayers significant money, not to mention slowing the process to reduce overcrowding in our jail. I commend our sheriff for addressing the problems in the jail with building out of the pods. However, the pods do not take primacy from the expansion. Sole focus on only expanding the jail is like filling a sink with a 3-inch fire hose and only having a 1-inch drain. The sink will continually overflow. If a 4-inch drain is installed, then the water will leave the sink at the same or quicker pace than it is being filled, thus reducing the need to increase the size of the sink. There are 8 departments positively impacted by this addition, the sheriff being one. Commissioners have the fiduciary responsibility to provide resources for statutory requirements to every county office. The KCSO move to Hayden is not statutorily required, although I understand the sheriff's need for more room, and I supported the project at the initial estimate of $400,000, which then increased to 1.3 and then 1.5 million. Now it's back to $950,000. which is not as critical as the need to address jail overcrowding. Plus, with the city of Hayden considering their own police department, is this a move that is prudent before all the facts are in? There's a solution, that is timing, and we will hear from the auditor later on the different timing of the different payments and where funds are going to be coming from. So the county's savings account is approximately $40 million right now, roughly $20 million, which is available for projects, and then $20 million, which is another 2.5 months cash reserves. So while yes, I do believe that we should have 3 months cash reserves, that's not possible in this climate, and we need to finish this expansion. There are many ways to replenish and to tighten our belts and to make sure that we do have that cushion going forward. So there was a breakdown in the internal county process that was identified. The flow of information has been and will continue to be addressed to correct this breakdown. Because confidence has been lost in the process, at this Thursday's HR meeting, I will bring a proposal forward to hire a third-party construction manager using the funds that would have gone towards the unfilled facilities director position. So, Jonathan, if you would put up the slide. So March 16th, Bouten Construction actually gave us this presentation, and it talks about 2018, this size of this building would be $24 million at $400 a square foot. And you can see at the price of construction outpacing just normal CPI or inflation. And so you see that as of March 16th, 2023, we're still on target with that number there. Now, if we wait, if we change this project, if we wait in the future, it's going to just continue to go up and up and up. And when the jail was expanded and the 2 jail pods were not finished, that is a criticism that that board got for years to come, for the last 5 years. The unwillingness of the commission at that time to spend those extra funds to finish the project has now 300% increase for that. Yes, we do need the jail pods built out, but we also need this expansion because it doesn't matter if we just keep building and building the jail. If we don't address the court system and don't have that ability to process people through, then it's a problem. Yeah, was it a heartburn to have this much money? It is, but back when it was a $22 million thought process, which there's a whole thing behind the construction company coming on and letting the architect know that their estimate was severely under. So what do? We stop. We just stop the whole project altogether and just continue building jails, 3-4-story jail? No, we have to address the courts no matter what. So yes, the funding is super unfortunate, but right now what's proposed could be to cut down the project, stop the project, different things that are not going to benefit the Kootenai County or the taxpayers. So I would also say, Jonathan, do you have? So March 16th, we decided to go ahead with the full building and not take any of these other things. March 16th was just a meeting with Bouten Construction. It was not addressing the soft costs or the other costs that were already committed to. So Jonathan, do you have the other? Two slides. Did you have the other one? Yeah. So when we talk about breakdown in communication and process, this was one item that was a problem. So on March 20th, and I think it was actually March 22nd, pull that up. The Resource Management Office, who has been heading up this project, had sent documents to the auditor showing the $11 million shortfall. And so on that is the other document there. There's a document dated the 21st, so March 21st. Yeah, and then scroll to the bottom. So it was sent to the auditor on the 22nd, and, sorry. Huh? Is it working? All right, well, I can just read it to you here. So the estimated construction was $35,273,649. Maximum potential funding gap for construction, $11,273,649. And then the total contracted at that time of March 21st was $2 million already committed to the LCA architect. So the breakdown was on several different levels here, because a couple weeks later, actually maybe just a week and a half later, we had the fund balance discussion. But yet the $11 million was not brought forward during that discussion. So there was reasons why things were not fully discussed then. And later on in June, when Bouten came back with the information that we had that entire piece on June 26, 2023, where it showed the total construction price and it showed all of the soft costs that go with construction. And this board unanimously voted to go ahead with this. So then, fast forward, I don't know if it's buyer's remorse or what happened. I mean, this is a huge, huge project. And I wouldn't even entertain it if it wasn't desperately necessary at this point. And so fast forward, now we're going through and priorities have changed and bringing forward the jail pods and the move. Yeah, I admit we need the jail pods, and I'm absolutely happy to go forward and support that. But raising that amount 32% just to defund the Justice Center, I have a problem with that. That was not transparent. And I asked to have that vote put off so I could further dig into the information provided, and that did not happen. So we have a lot of problems and issues here. I think we're on a great path forward to solve them. But bottom line is, this project is broken ground. If we do not finish it the way it's cost, the way it's come out, then it's just going to be hard to the taxpayer. I hate the fact that we did not have a construction manager or a facilities manager on from the very beginning. But this was a breakdown on many, many levels about the funding. But like I said, we'll hear from the auditor's office, and we can do that. So I think with that, you wanted, let's see. So
I have some
Stan?
things to say,
Oh, I'm
too.
sorry. Sorry, Bill. Go right ahead.
This meeting should have happened at least 6 months ago, and with plenty of time for people to be involved. The reason we're having it tonight is because we can't have it tomorrow night without incurring a lot of extra expenses. The citizenry, the taxpayers, have been kept out of this process. The ARPA money that we used has been held very tightly by the county and given only to those people that the county, the small group thought it should, and the vast majority of it went for the jail. Now, the American Rescue Plan Act, I think a lot of people in this county would have had a lot to say about how big, how many floors. I can tell you right now that we are, 100 prisoners over where we should be in the jail? 100, approximately. And what that will get you is sued by an attorney for any one of the prisoners who are in the jail, or for God's sake, heaven forbid, somebody who's been injured or a family of an inmate who's been killed, and it will cost you a darn sight more than anything that the Justice Center is going to cost if we wait a little bit. This should have been done a long time ago. We should have literally, all of us, been here 6 months ago. And then we could have had a robust, honest discussion about this. Tonight, we can't. It's done. And people were just couldn't get a shovel in the ground fast enough. And that was too bad, because hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Now you can't stop. I don't like that kind of government. I like it when people can make their objections known or their support. And there are things that should be supported. We are out of space as far as the Justice Center or the judges. But it's not, in my opinion, as critical as the space that we're out of in the jail, because that is actionable by people. This is not. This is at best a big inconvenience for the judges. And quite frankly, they're not top on my list. The people who pay for this are.
So, are you done? Sorry.
I don't know.
Interrupt you.
Am I done? I think so.
Okay. So I will say that the ARPA task force, their entire report is online, and you can read that. ARPA funds were not permitted to expand jail. As a matter of fact, ACLU has filed lawsuits across the country on states who have used that money for jail expansion. The second thing is, we know that we have a need. Sixth Amendment says right to a speedy trial. If we're not meeting that need, then that's a problem. That goes beyond the jail as well. Kootenai County is already part of a lawsuit regarding public defense. So our Sixth Amendment is very important. The other thing is, when is this Justice Center going to be the right price? When is it ever? Wait a year? Wait 2 years? It's never going to be the right price, okay? This building 30 years ago, the commissioners absolutely caught flack from the taxpayers. And now 30 years later, we're grown out of it. It is a necessary and ugly component of government to take money from people to provide these services. But justice services are the reason why America is the way it is. So I would like to hear from former prosecutor, District Judge Barry McHugh, if he would like to speak representing the judiciary.
Before you do that, I would like to make a comment, because you kind of had your opening
Sorry.
comment, and then you did a follow-up after Commissioner Brooks. And, I think it should be important to note that, you're the chairman, and not once since I've been a commissioner have you said, we need to hire a professional to help manage this process. Not once. We've never had a meeting with that. And on top of that, the decision to proceed on March 21 to allocate fund balance for this project was based upon a $35 million cost number. And those soft costs that go on top of the $35 million construction were withheld. They were never brought forward. My decision was based upon a meeting that was titled Total Cost or Project Cost. And we were presented with $35 million. And I know that the previous board was given a $3.5 million soft cost figure because Lombard Conrad Architects did that. They provided that number in their $22 million. And so with respect to a speedy trial, I actually, you made that comment before, and I asked the sheriff and the jail command staff, how many people are in jail right now who are waiting for a trial? We don't have anybody. In fact, it was concluded that if we added 3 more courtrooms, it would not have any relief on the jail, because a lot of times people would be brought in for trial, found guilty, and sent right back to the jail to wait for their sentencing. So it would have a net zero effect. And so I just want to make sure that when these statements are being made, that there's more context behind them. and more facts. And you're right, we had a breakdown in communication. And that breakdown was $3.5 million more than what the total project cost was represented in March. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So,
I do not disagree. And
Well,
that's why we've taken steps
Since
to
we're
fix it.
getting a second bite at the apple here, we didn't have a breakdown in communications. We had a breakdown in leadership. And I'm sorry about that, but that's where we find ourselves. Now, what are we going to do about it?
All right, Judge McHugh.
Excuse me, my name is Barry McHugh. I'm a
Can you push the button on the, yep, just. Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's better. Again, my name is Barry McHugh. I'm currently district judge. District judge, I was prosecuting attorney until end of September of last year. So I can really only address the needs in terms of the judges. Currently, we have, as was indicated, 4 district judges, and we have 1 visiting judge from Shoshone County to help with the caseload, criminal caseload, and then another judge from Bonner County comes down to handle half of a criminal caseload because the cases are, the numbers are greater here in Kootenai County with our bigger population than the other counties. I know that there's a need for additional space because court employees are sort of spread out in different offices, not only on campus, but off campus as well. And then we really do have a need for some additional office space or chamber space for 3 of our magistrate judges who are in really inadequate space right now. So I can certainly speak to the need for space. We would like to get an additional district judge, but with the space that we currently have, that would be problematic just because we are utilizing all the chamber space that is available right now. So beyond that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, questions?
well, as soon as I became a commissioner, one of the first tasks was to have our clerk give me a tour of the courthouse, the old courthouse. And frankly, I was appalled at just how people were seated. I mean, we had one person, I think, sitting in a hallway with a curtain for privacy. We had, people packed in there. I think there were 3 judges in one office. There's no doubt in my mind that this building is long overdue and needed. I think the hard part is the fact that we can only make good decisions as commissioners when it comes to the money when we're given good information. And the problem was that information existed, but it was never brought before the board so that we could truly understand the financial impact to the county. And, so I sympathize with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. We need to complete the Justice Center expansion. It's just that the decisions have to be made with good information. And the people managing the project, I believe could have done a way better job. And we're talking about taxpayer money here. So that's really, I think, the issue, not so much the lack of need. I agree that there is a huge need for more space. The county's been growing. The court system is getting busier, and so is our jail. And so everything has to be kind of addressed when it comes to the entire criminal justice system in that sense. But I appreciate your comments, Judge. Thank you.
Sure.
Questions for Barry?
Yeah, Judge. Glad to see you're a judge now. Number one, you're speaking for our entire judiciary?
Well, I don't know if I can speak for the entire judiciary. I can speak about what I know.
Okay. Because the thing is, as this price goes up and up and up, it's all people want, people want, people want. But you know what? When it's all said and done, the people are going to have to write the checks to pay for this. It's not Bill Brooks or Leslie Duncan or Bruce Matari. We're just the taxpayers here. But the people of Kootenai County are going to have to pony up and write some really big checks. I don't see this thing coming in at under, when inflation's done, when it's all over, $65 million. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
If that's realistic, it's a lot.
You know what? When we were at 22 million, 38 million sounded like a lot also.
So, does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Stan Mortensen?
Stan Mortensen for the record. I'm the current prosecuting attorney. I have a prepared statement. Would the board like me to just go into that, or would I be best served just fielding questions? Just go ahead. I know the board's well aware of this, but for the public's benefit, my office cannot continue to operate where we are currently located. We have outgrown the office, and it happened a long time ago. I have employees spread out among 4 different buildings throughout the county. This is less than ideal and not efficient. We have attorneys in what used to be closets. We joke around in an effort to boost morale. We call them windowless offices, but they're closets. One of the larger offices in my floor has been converted to house 2 attorneys with a half-wall divider. In 2014, the office went paperless. We basically removed all the filing cabinets in what we called the vault, and now the vault has room for 3 to 4 employees. That is our largest windowless office. Another 2 legal assistants can be housed in a corner at the end of a hallway outside of another office. Our caseloads are higher than ever. We need to create more positions in order to manage the growth in caseloads. I would like to ask the board for more employees, but we have no room to put them. And I can't speak for him, but Judge McHugh is just up here. He is my predecessor. I believe he wanted to ask for more positions as well, but there's just no room to put them. The only thing saving us right now is the fact that we are short-staffed. We are short 5 attorneys. We hire, then we lose attorneys. We hire, then we lose attorneys. It's the constant cycle of the county prosecutor. But those positions will be filled, and we're going to be sitting on each other's laps again. Even if we were fully staffed, our caseloads are unreasonable right now. I have had applicants refuse to work in my office, refuse a job offer because they do not want to share office with another attorney or 2. When I interview new employees, I give them a tour of the office, and I explain to them where they're going to be housed and why they have to share the office with another attorney or 2. The looks on their faces are disappointing. When people get a doctorate degree and they become a lawyer, they know they're not going to make a lot of money, and they know that when they're a county prosecutor, they're not going to have the nicest office in town. But they don't expect to be rubbing shoulders with another attorney or 2 in a windowless office that used to be a closet. And again, I've actually had people refuse a job offer because where they are currently working, even though it might pay less money, they have their own office. So the question is what to do about this. It's not my decision to make. Again, all I know is that my office cannot function, cannot protect the public, cannot administer justice in our current location. Something has to change. The idea of a new building was going to be a fix. We are going to have more offices. We were going to be able to request more attorneys, more legal assistants, and there were going to be a few extra offices for them to move into. And now that's at jeopardy. Again, this is not my decision to make. But I implore the board to find the money to fund the entire building. This is a public safety issue. If I don't have room for my attorneys to operate out of, it's going to affect the public. And it's going to cost people in the long run, not just financially. Again, this is a public safety issue. But even if we're going to have to dip into savings, that is a viable option. Yes, it's the board's decision. And yes, the board has to answer to the public, and this is public money. These are tax dollars. Nobody has forgotten about that. But as Commissioner Duncan pointed out, look what happened with the jail. If the jail would have been finished 5 years ago from top to bottom, it would have been built for a lot cheaper than it's going to be built today. This building might cost $38 million today, but it's going to cost more in 2 years and 5 years. If one floor is removed, that floor is going to have to be built somewhere else in the future in a different building. That building in the future is going to cost more than it's going to cost to build this building today. And so I'm not going to sit here and point at any department that's going to fill this new building. They all need the space they need. But if one of the options is to remove the top floor, I would ask the board to entertain the cost of removing any of the other floors as well. If the top floor can be removed, so can the third floor, the second floor, or the first floor. These are like 4 Lego blocks. Find out how much each floor costs to build, and whichever one's going to save the most money, maybe that's the one to be removed. I don't think it has to be my office. I'm not asking the board to remove a court floor either, though. I think they all should be built. But if one of the options is to just cut the top floor off, I just don't think that my floor should be the only one targeted for that effort. Does the board have any questions?
Just so we're clear, getting rid of the top floor is really not meant to get rid of your office space. It's just meant to look at it from a construction cost perspective, not to affect your office directly. I believe one floor has 2 courtrooms and another floor has 1, and some additional office space. So it really is more about contingency planning and not, some sort of focus in on your office.
No, I understand that, but the truth of the matter is that the building's going to have a top floor, no matter how many floors it has. Mm-hmm. The prosecutor's office just happens to be the top floor as currently outlined. There's supposed to be 3 new courtrooms divided between the 2 middle floors. Again, I'm not saying the court doesn't need the floor or the courtrooms, but what's better if we're not going to get the whole building? Again, that's ideal. I'm advocating for the whole building, but if a floor is going to be removed, what's better? To get 3 courtrooms and no prosecutor's floor, or to get 2 courtrooms and a prosecutor's floor? That's all I'm saying. Yes, the building's going to have a top floor, and if the county's trying to save money, I just think the county would be worth identifying how much each floor costs, because if the second floor is removed rather than the top floor, how much is that going to save the county? If the first floor is removed rather than the second or third floor, how much is that going to save the county? I just don't think it should be limited to the current top floor. That's all I'm saying. Are there any other questions?
Thank you,
No,
Stan.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Carlene Behringer with the trial court administrator is on Zoom. Carlene, are you ready? Oh, Carlene, we can't hear you. It might be something on our end. Hold on a sec. Can you try again, Carlene? Nope, not doing that, so. No. All right, well, we'll try to figure that out. I see that the sheriff and the treasurer are both here, so.
Hi, Robert Norris, Sheriff. Just a point of clarification on a conversation the board was having. We've got approximately 125 years of law enforcement experience in here, and not once have we been in a courtroom where the defendant's attorney asked to waive his or her right to a speedy trial because of jail overcrowding. Never seen it, never heard of it. So I think there's a point of clarification because there was a conversation about trial, but there was never, ever been, in our experience, a defendant's attorney asked to waive their right to speedy trial because of jail overcrowding. Okay, one of the reasons I ran to be your county sheriff is because this community is growing and has hit an inflection point from small town to large community. With growth comes more crime and a greater need to keep criminals off the street. Since I took office in January of 2021, I have brought many of these concerns to the BOCC regarding our overcrowded jail population, staffing issues, and the projected growth needs for more jail space in Kootenai County. Our jail has a functional capacity of 361 inmates and a maximum capacity of 451 inmates. We have not seen 361 inmates since December of 2021. Today's population is 464 and often exceeds 500 inmates. Our jail is experiencing higher than normal tension amongst inmates and burnout among staff. Inmate versus inmate incidents have increased as inmate rank structures within the living quarters have also increased. Inmates often sleep on floors and plastic liners. Allowing these situations to continue increases the risk of an incident that could cost this county well into the 7 digits. This community is about law and order and keeping the bad guys off the street. Nobody should ever want a policy that allows criminals to be let back out on the street because of jail overcrowding. But that is what you have if you do not make finishing the jail pods a priority. Other consequences that come with jail overcrowding, besides financial liability, are consent decrees. A consent decree is when an entity, most likely the federal government or a federal judge, gets involved in the operation of a jail. I cannot imagine how this community will react to the BOCC if they ignore this problem and we are put into a federal consent decree and a federal judge tells us what we can and cannot do. That's what happened in Canyon County, Idaho. It lasted 7 years and ended in 2016.
Sheriff Norris, what kinds of things do they tell you you must or can't do?
Can I?
Yeah, but I'm interested.
So that's what happened in Canyon County. It ended in 2016. It consisted of 66 conditions that this federal judge put on this county. And it ran well into the millions of dollars after it was all said and done. Does anybody have any experience with a federal consent decree? I do. And it's not fun. The court appoints a receiver who gets to charge by the hour to ensure compliance. The receiver and their compliance team frequents the facility, and additional resources are often required just to manage the consent decree. We do not want the federal government in our county operation. The best way to lower county taxpayer liability is to make completing the jail pods a priority so we can keep the deputies safe in the jail, the inmates safe, and most importantly, our community safe. And for the record, I would like the public to know we did not, the sheriff's office did not ask to go to Kootenai Electric. In this particular, these 66 conditions range everywhere from the capacity, the square footage per inmate, to the temperature of the food, to the ventilation systems, it's a whole variety of conditions that have to be met.
You'd stand for questions?
Yes?
Okay, I have a couple. How many daily are we holding for Idaho Department of Corrections?
Generally 100.
Okay,
But my conversations with Josh DeWalt, that situation is not going to resolve for at least 3 years.
and how many other of the 5 northern counties failed their jail inspection due to overcrowding?
Well, I learned that one other one did recently in our local paper.
3. So Benawa, Shoshone, and us for overcrowding.
Yeah, well, in Idaho, once you get past the first 6 counties, the jail population plummets considerably. So if a jail is rated for 10 people and they got 13 people in there, they're 30% over capacity. So that's, I think, is enough for another conversation. I don't even know why Benawa has a jail. It's a converted courthouse, so anyway.
Questions?
No, I've been to the jail too many times.
Yes,
Fortunately, never as your guest, right?
we let you go home at the end of your tour.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm just curious, is there ever a point where you just can't take another inmate?
No, we're mandated by law, mandated by the Constitution of the state of Idaho.
So you just have to keep taking them in?
We keep taking them in. I can have a policy for my own sheriff's office releases of nonviolent misdemeanors and et cetera, but I can't tell a different police agency that they have to write a citation for forgery or petty theft.
And
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, does the overcrowding affect your ability to, or affect the insurance premiums at all?
Well, we haven't seen that yet. We know that we're in a higher risk category because of what our current inmate count is right now. Now, whether ICRIMP takes action on that, that would be a question for ICRIMP.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Brooks.
Yeah, 2 things. It used to be that we had more misdemeanors in the jail than felons, and a long time ago.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not the case anymore.
Now it's flipped.
Now it's flipped. Generally, we run about 80% felony and 20% misdemeanor,
And
generally.
have you asked the judges, or tried to, if they could not sentence nonviolent, non-felons to
We've
jail?
asked for some sentencing consideration.
And what were you told?
We were told that it's their job to sentence and it's my job to house them. In no uncertain terms. So I made an attempt. And specifically, if an inmate was given 30 days, or for the purpose of math, let's say
Sure.
60 days, and the judge says, okay, well, we're going to give you every weekend for 15 weekends. So I'm processing that inmate to be booked in 15 times and to be released 15 times.
That's a lot of work.
So we've asked that, can we just do 2 30-day sentences? And we were told, no, that's not my job to even have the meeting to ask for that from the judges.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carlene? Did we get that fixed?
Check.
Okay. So Carlene, do you know if your connection's bad? Is there can you turn off the video? Maybe if you turn off the video, it would help. All right, how about if she uses one of the Zoom phone numbers? Yeah, Carlene, can you try to call in to the Zoom? Thank you. All right, I do not know that the treasurer would like to speak. but he's welcome to.
No, thank you.
Oh. Okay. Carlene? Well, we hear you, but it's not very clear. You know what, Carlene, let me just try something. I'm gonna call your phone and I can put you on my,
If she wants to type it, Leslie, I can read it for her.
can see.
Hi there.
Okay, so let's see if this works. Now you gotta mute yourself on the other end. I think you're still on Zoom. So there you go. There, thank you. Okay. Nope. Sorry.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna disconnect Zoom.
Okay,
There we go. How's that?
okay, that works. Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Okay,
All right, well, I just have a couple comments, and I obviously am in support of the building, all the floors being built. I do have sympathy for the judges and I do have sympathy for the prosecutor's office. But I just want to make some things clear, especially for the public, because, sometimes the judiciary is very complicated and there's a lot of things that go behind the scenes that, we just don't understand. And I would just like to bring some information forward, and then if people have questions, I'd be happy to answer the questions or try to find them an answer. So, as you know, Kootenai County is part of the 1st District, and in the district, we have 7 district judges and 14 magistrate judges. Any of the judges in the 1st District can be assigned to either criminal or civil matters throughout the district, and the district judges can also be assigned to grand jury proceedings. So, within the district, currently Kootenai County has 4 district judges and 9 magistrate judges. As Judge McHugh mentioned, we do have a judge from Shoshone County coming down and hearing felony cases. We have a magistrate from Benawat County coming over and hearing misdemeanor cases on a regular basis. And then we also have a Bonner County district judge assisting Kootenai County with civil cases. In addition to our resident judges, we also have a robust statewide senior judge program that gives us the opportunity to assign retired judges to pending matters in both district court and magistrate court. A lot of times those senior judges help out with extra jury trials, vacations, sick leave, things of that nature. Right now, we currently have 14 courtrooms. One of our courtrooms is the size of a small office, and one is situated at the jail. And even though that courtroom at the jail does have a jury box, we are not able to utilize that courtroom for jury trials. We can handle some other matters out there, but we cannot handle jury trials out there. So that being the case, 4 of our courtrooms have jury boxes that can accommodate 12 to 14 jurors for felonies and district court civil trials, and 2 of the courtrooms have jury boxes that can accommodate 6 to 8 jurors for misdemeanors and civil trials that are not heard in district court. I just want to bring to everybody's attention that, unlike other jurisdictions, our judges don't have their own courtroom. Many of the other jurisdictions, there's a specific courtroom assigned to judges, and we don't have that luxury in Kootenai County. The bailiff's office is constantly rearranging schedules and juggling calendars to ensure that each judge has the ability to preside over their assigned matters at the scheduled time. The addition of the 3 courtrooms, each with their own jury box, will give us the opportunity to schedule more matters sooner than later, and the addition of these 3 courtrooms would decrease the delay in cases being heard and would allow the public to access justice in a more orderly and timely fashion. In addition to the lack of courtroom space, we also do not have adequate chambers, as Judge McHugh mentioned, for 3 of our magistrates. I am in that area where they are housed, and it's a very tight area. The 3 magistrates are, they're currently sharing office space with my staff in the lower level of the courthouse. Offices are entirely too small, It's very difficult for the judges, me, and my staff to concentrate and conduct business on a daily basis. Both my office and the judges' offices deal with many confidential matters which should not be heard or shared by others. When a police officer is seeking a search warrant from Judge Cafferty, my staff and I should not be able to hear any of the conversation that's taking place between the police officer and Judge Cafferty, nor should Judge Cafferty or Judge Randalls be privy to any confidential meetings or conversations I'm having with members of the Idaho Supreme Court of other agencies. We have done our best to avoid these situations, but it's very difficult. It's a very old building and the walls are very thin. In addition to housing the judges in inadequate offices, I had to clean out my windowless small supply closet and convert it into a judicial assistant's office. I find that to be very demoralizing for the judicial assistant who was assigned to that office. And furthermore, there's no meeting room where my staff and other department heads can meet to discuss any pending issues. Additionally, we are the only district that houses judges and trial court administrator staff together. This type of space sharing does not exist elsewhere and is very counterproductive. In addition to the challenges with the office space, there is also the issue of security. Since the judges' offices are located on the lower level of the Kootenai County Courthouse, it is not uncommon for the judges to share a bathroom, the common lobby area, and hallway with folks on misdemeanor probation, some of which may have been sentenced for their crime by the judge who was walking next to them in the common areas. I understand that the other departments also need additional space, but the time has come to provide these judges and staff with respectful, adequate, and secure chambers and offices. I do want to let the public know that the Idaho Supreme Court fiscal 2025 budget request to the legislature will be heard when the state legislature convenes in January of 2024. And the Idaho Supreme Court is concentrating on technology and will be requesting $197,000 from the Idaho State Legislature to outfit the Kootenai County courtrooms. That would be part of the extension. Items that are slated to be installed would be D10s, which are large TV screens to use in the courtrooms, computers for both the judges and the deputies, monitors for both the judges and the deputies, clocks that record the proceedings, audio equipment, microphones, speakers, things of that nature. That would all be something that the Supreme Court would be moving forward to discuss with the legislature. So again, in closing, I do feel sympathetic for everybody that needs new court space. Office space. But I've been here 18 years, and the need has been here for 18 years, and it's just getting worse. So I'll take any questions now from the public. If anyone has any questions or anything that they would like to clarify.
Sure. Bill, questions? Okay, and Bruce, questions?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you, Carlene. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Sorry my Zoom isn't working. I just had my computer repaired by the Supreme Court, but I guess they didn't quite repair it adequately.
Right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is that our stakeholders? Is that our elected officials? We do have some more judges in the audience, so I would probably open it up to them. Otherwise, I would be wanting to go to Bouten Construction and then our auditor's office.
I'd be happy to make a comment.
Okay.
Thank you for hearing from me. I'm Judge Walsh. I'm one of the 9 magistrates here in.
And then just push the button there because nobody on YouTube can hear you.
I'm Judge Walsh, one of the 9 magistrates here in Kootenai County. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you all for attending here today. I want to start off by saying that we ask so much of our law enforcement in Kootenai County. We ask them to do so much with so little, and our community has changed. It has grown. Since I started practicing law here to what these officers see every day, it's a tremendous change. They are dealing with very violent offenders, an increase in violent crime, an increase in arrests, an increase in population, and all the trouble that brings. And they're doing a tremendous job with the very little resources that they have. And I know I am, and I don't want to speak for all the judiciary, but certainly the judges that I interact with are so thankful for our law enforcement. That said, we also have an incredible probation department that works so hard every day to make sure that the citizens of Kootenai County are safe. And the judges and the judges' clerks work so hard every day to fulfill what we believe is our calling, and that is to do right by the public and to make difficult decisions about who should go to jail and who should be let out on probation. And I just simply want to ask you as an organization, as the group here, to make the tough decision as well, to ensure that the sheriff and the courts have adequate space to do good work for the citizens of Kootenai County. That's your job to do, to make sure that you work together to accomplish that goal so that we may fulfill our constitutional obligation that we have sworn an oath to, that I've sworn an oath to, that Sheriff Norris has sworn an oath to, that the many men and women that work in the system have sworn an oath to do, and do that difficult work every day. We're asking that you do your difficult work and come together and make a decision so that we can do, again, our work. Do you have any questions for me?
No, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Mr. Shelby, would you like to run us through where we are currently in the project? And, yeah. do that.
Sure, thank you. So Bouten Construction was brought on board for this project in July of 2022. And we then negotiated a contract in December of 2022 that then allowed us to fully engage on the project. And when we pursued this project, as we do with all projects, we run this through our filter of, is this a place that matters and a relationship that will last? And that's really how we make the determination if we're going to proceed with a project or not. So feeling that this was a very important facility to the community and a relationship with Kootenai County that we wanted to foster and grow, we pursued this project. And Bouten Construction, we're a local general contractor. I personally have been doing projects in Coeur d'Alene since 2012. And we're very committed to this community and to this region. As we fully engaged on this project in December, the biggest concern when we pursued this project and when we started was that we immediately saw the construction budget did not match the scope of work. And like Bruce, you talked about earlier, we came in March after we had a few months to work with the design team through validation and said, here's three options: a $24 million option, a $30 million option, and a $36 million option. And in March, the decision was made, let's go with the $35 million option. And in March, that decision was, let's go with the $35 million full building project. So with that in mind, we then were looking at how is the most efficient, effective cost way and the quickest way to deliver this project to the community. Since then, that's been our goal. And with Corey, one of the architects that's here with us tonight, and the team, we've been looking at what is the quickest way, most cost-effective way. The first thing that we realized was that the design was going to take longer than our construction window has in North Idaho. So we collaborated and came up with the idea to do the 3 work packages that would then release some of the site work and the structure to start ahead of winter, which has actually been a huge advantage given the wonderful fall that we've had with weather. I was running some quick numbers as we were thinking tonight, and releasing that first work package, I'd estimate saved the county nearly $700,000 in inflation cost versus having to bid that project next spring. And then work package 2, which was the structure, I'd estimate saved another $650,000 to $700,000. So this approach, I see, has saved the county roughly $1.3 million in inflation to accelerate that work and get it to happen this year. This is also saving in construction time on the back end because we are now doing construction ahead of winter. We're going to be able to get the footings done ahead of winter, which is just setting the project up for a quicker delivery. we've been very focused. In March, if you'll remember, the decision was, we'll approve you at the $35 million, but we'd really like to see this come in at $32 million. That's been on our mind. That's been my goal. It's like, how do we get this down as close as we can? And as Bruce, as you said earlier, we've saved about $900,000. We also have another $900,000 in estimating and design contingency that we're really trying to protect and save. And there was the biggest value engineering item that we saw was on the exterior cladding system, which we've been able to realize. We set out $1.3 million to try to save that money. We got $1.2 million of that. So we've made some great strides, made great moves. A lot of that has been because the board put trust in the team and they've allowed us to do what we do. And we had to take some faith, and the board did that. And I think it's been a tremendous benefit to the county. So that's the part I can talk about, is what we're executing on.
Thank you. Bill, questions for
No.
Bouten? All right, and Bruce, questions for Bouten?
You?
Are you signed up to speak? Okay, so in the back of the room? Okay, so in the back of the room are these forms, and if you would like to speak, then I'm happy to call on you.
So I'm not late to submit one?
No, nope, you can do that. Okay, no questions for,
No, I just want to say that of all the parties on this, you've been the most consistent. And, that's actually kind of refreshing. The problem I have is that, in March, when we talked about project cost, you were really talking about construction costs of the $35 million. That's the real problem. And that, that was allowed to be thought of as the primary focus in order to make a decision. And that's the real problem here, because $35 million is $3.5 million difference than $38.5 million. And we, came up with this idea from my contemporary, the project lead, that we only needed to assign $6 million for the building from our savings and $6 million to the jail pods, and we would have extra money left over. So I've never had an issue with any of the work that your firm has done. Never had an issue with the fact that you are real professionals, that you will not underestimate because that leads to problems with client satisfaction and things like that. And so from my perspective, the construction side of this has been the only bright spot. It's really more the information that's being given to board members that leads them to making decisions to proceed. And that's really been the issue. So I hope at some point, I could understand exactly where that $6 million figure came from, because, that had to have been substantiated. I cannot imagine that me being told that it was only going to be $6 million in reserve fund for the building and $6 million for the jail pods out of the total $15 million we would have, that I can't imagine that number would have been stated unless it was substantiated. So I'd love to see that at some point. But what you folks have done from Bouten, I think has been spot on. So thank you.
yep. And I want to thank you too for working through us with this project. And like I said, there was absolutely communication breakdown, but I guarantee you that nothing was to damage any of the process going forward. So with the part of the project being started in 21 and 22, having to compartmentalize things and stuff, at that meeting in March 16th, and we talked about the different construction things, that's all my mind was focused on, was construction. So it wasn't focused on the things that we had already signed, because that was already signed, if that makes sense. So you do it in stages, right? You get your design team, you get your construction team. So yeah, have I made mistakes? Have I failed? 100%, and I'll own that. And I actually have asked for a construction manager, not like I'm doing right now. I've asked for it to be the facilities director, and I even asked for that director to come on board ASAP, and we've been trying to hire somebody. I asked for him to be hired earlier than the budget season of October. So yeah, and I said earlier, huge breakdown in process. I am, relying on a bunch of different folks as well as folks relying on me. So the point coming forward now is that it was all presented in June, and we had an opportunity right then
No, it was not. It was not. That's a red herring, and I'm sorry.
Okay, well,
When we get a nice chart that shows here's what the construction is, when we get a document like what the board got right here, that shows all the breakdown of the costs, and we get to look at that, and we get to reflect on it, and we get to debate it and talk about it, and then after we look at these numbers, we say, where's the money going to come from? Okay, that was never done. Okay,
So-
and that's the part that I think is misleading to the public. Okay, and so the whole point is that we're making these multi-million-dollar decisions because of mistakes. We're supposed to be better than that. I mean, $10,000 on a $38 million building, fine. $3.5 million just got conveniently forgotten to be discussed when that we're drawing down our savings.
so
I just have a hard time accepting that.
I appreciate the way that you are presenting that, but I guarantee you that that was not any type of purposeful thing. I have the thing that we've been operating on from June 26th. So,
Yeah, that was yours. You never distributed that. And that's the part that's hard, is that, even when you knew, you never made it a point to bring it back to this board and say, folks, what I told you in March was wrong. I told you, and you made a decision based upon that, and it was wrong. And so we need to come back and have another conversation. That opportunity was presented multiple times before we started digging. Now that we started this project, there's no going back. And that's what makes it so hard for me to accept the fact that we are here today where we are. And now, yes, can we complete these different projects? Yes, but the point is of this entire discussion is that we're going to draw our savings down to where the margin of error no longer exists for our future budgets. And that is what concerns me so much. Not the fact that we can't draw down our savings, but the margin of error. And you've had so many opportunities with this information to make it a point, and it never happened. The budget, our finance director was never a part of this. She didn't know until September 22nd, the day after I asked, how much is this building going to cost total? Until the director of RML emailed her that $38.3 million number. And then only through that did I, for the first time, see an actual dollar amount. And so, Commissioner Duncan, I'm sorry, but, those opportunities to have formal meetings, meaningful discussion about our savings came and went. And it was only through our finance director discovering this long after we already started digging.
So I have a problem a little bit with the mischaracterization of this information has been available the entire time. So to your point, we've talked about these numbers. Now, maybe not into the point where you have, comprehended the entire package, and for that, I'm sorry about that. So I recognize the breakdown in the communication problem, but the connection with the departments is not what it should have been. And These numbers have been presented not in the manner that Commissioner Matari is talking about, and I can tell you that. So we've had the discussions about this $11 million shortfall and where these numbers have come from. So I do appreciate this conversation tonight. However, I tell you what, they've been there.
They've been on a drive that I didn't have access to until the beginning of this month. How am I supposed to know where numbers are if they're on a drive somewhere in the county network system? I mean, that is the problem, is that, as the project lead, as a member of this board, we all have to work together. We have to communicate together. And that is, yeah, okay, great, you admitted it was a mistake, but I've been making decisions based upon this information you're giving me. $6 million, $12 million, $15 million we have in savings. And it was known between March and June that this was going to be a lot more. And that's why we should have had this conversation about where's the money going to come from? And the entire time, anyone who wants to go back in time and look at these public meetings, they're going to see we can afford it all. We can pay for it all. The jail pods won't be a problem. Everything will be fine.
I actually said that what I was concerned with is we would not have money for the move to Hayden. I actually said that in a meeting.
And you know something? And meanwhile, we're continuing to agree to spend more money on figuring out how to do the move to Hayden. And, the part that kind of, throws me off a little bit is that, I don't know why we bought a building in Hayden when it's not in the county seat. But again, that's water under the bridge. But now we need to fill that building. And who are we going to fill it with? And whoever goes in there, it's going to cost money no matter what to do the build outs. Mm-hmm. So we have to do this,
Well, we actually could sell it. Now,
well, then that's fine too. That's an option. And that's okay. But again, these discussions, what pains me is that we've gotten this far into digging into this new building and committed to these millions of dollars. And I agree with Commissioner Brooks, this all could have been circumvented had we had a person come before us who's managing this project and saying, here's where we are with the numbers, folks. How do you want to manage this? I mean, we passed a budget that is going to commit us to spending money for positions that we fill, that is going to reduce our margin of error down to nil. I mean, this is what has me so worked up and concerned about this. And that, these numbers were there, and it was never important enough to make sure that this board and our finance director could sit down like we have done with our budget deliberations and with other discussions of here's where we are, how do we manage the money? And that is why we're here. The public needs to know that the margin of error has been virtually eliminated by spending down all this money, moving forward. And that's the real issue.
so I'd like to hear from the auditor's office. They've been very kind to give me numbers, and I appreciate that. So, and once again, yeah, the breakdown in communication, and Brandy, if you would walk us through, please.
Brandy Falcon for the record. There's been a lot of talk about the finance director. That's me. I also have Keith Taylor, our deputy finance director. So earlier there was a lot of emails up on the screen. I tried to read them quickly. I couldn't. I should have them memorized from reviewing them all for the public records request last week, but I don't. Yes, every once in a while I would see a $38 million figure flow in from RMO, but in all of my offline conversations with commissioners or with RMO, or even in meetings where $38 million once in a while would come up, it was always talked back down. I was reassured. I had nothing to worry about. And so I wanted to work with people and just, okay, I trust they know what they're doing. As I saw these work packages begin to come in the fall, I started to get concerned. Things were not happening like I thought they were going to. And then in the meeting on the 21st, that was kind of my tipping point when I realized, I need to escalate some stuff to the clerk because I don't think I have the whole picture here. That meeting was when it was revealed that a $500,000 funded ARPA project had fallen through, and RMO was requesting it be reallocated to other projects. I was never notified about that, and that was when I kind of felt, okay, I think I'm not understanding the whole picture. Now I'm questioning all the ARPA projects. What's going on with all of them? Commissioner Atari's right. He asked the question about the total price, 38 million, and then they said, no, it's 35, and they said, I believe that includes LCA. So again, that affirmed that my kind of informal understanding all along was 35 million. So
And
the
that
goal
was-
going forward is to improve communication with RMO, but I mean, I went back, I rewatched meetings, how could I have missed this? And I came to the same conclusion, as did the clerk. We were operating off the information that was piecemealed to us. And now I hope that going forward, we have better communication with RMO. That's the goal.
Yeah, and that was on September 21 after we broke
Right.
ground.
Yes.
When I asked that question. And we got 3 different answers, so.
So I'm going to just do a quick overview. I just wanted, for the benefit of everyone here tonight, to explain what fund balance is and what funds are. So hopefully this will go quickly. All right, so we're going to talk about what is a fund, why do we organize money into different funds, what is fund balance, what are the types of fund balance, and then we're going to talk about funding for the justice expansion. So what is a fund? It is a tool that accountants use to organize money related to specific activities. So we are a government body, so we are held to a higher standard of transparency with our constituents and the public. One of the ways we do that is we use fund accounting, meaning specific activities are all accounted for separately. So we have a fund specifically for appraisal activities. We have a fund specifically for district court. Imagine if all of our finances were one giant bucket. It'd be really hard to provide transparency to the public on revenues and expenses related to specific statutory duties that we have to perform. So again, you can think of a fund as a bucket of revenues and expenses, or a silo, or a checking account, whatever helps you understand what a fund is. And our budget is made up of about 60 different funds. They function as a bookkeeping device to help us track not only budgeting for each activity, but also to help ensure legal compliance for all these mandated activities. So why do we organize our money into different funds? I kind of already touched on this. Fund accounting helps us provide a higher level enhanced transparency around our use of our funding related to specific services, and we also only have a specific set amount of revenue to cover those services. It provides a clearer picture of our cash position. In addition, many statutes require that we use funds and fund accounting for different revenue streams. So overall, it's driven by statute and by required accounting standards. So fund balance, this is what we're talking about. This is how we're funding, well, we're trying to fund the gap in this project. Fund balance is basically a liquidity measure. Every single fund has a fund balance. If a fund is a checking account, fund balance is the savings account for that fund. So at the end of every year, we have to balance our books. If there's more revenue than expenses, we get to put money into fund balance. If there's more expenses than revenues, we have to take money out of fund balance to bring that fund into balance at year end. So types of fund balance. There are 5 categories of fund balance. Only 2 of them can we consider as possible sources of funding for things like the justice expansion. So we have unassigned fund balance. Unassigned fund balance is the county's surplus reserves. That's what we refer to as our emergency fund or our rainy day fund. That's when the commissioners make a resolution every single spring to decide how many months are we going to carry in emergency reserves. So right now, in spring of '23, the board voted to reserve 2.5 months of expenses. So that's what's in there right now. Then we have assigned fund balance. That is fund balance that the board has assigned, intended to be used for a specific project. Examples of that would be the jail pods, or the 5-year plan budgets, or the move to KC North. Then we have committed fund balance. We can't touch that for these projects. That's going to be fund balance usage in our adopted budget. We have restricted fund balance. That's where there are legal restrictions on how that money can be spent. Examples of that would be Enhanced 911 Fund and our property tax-supported funds. Then we have non-spendable fund balance. That's really an accounting tool to show assets, cash assets that will never convert to available cash to be spent. They're reflections of services or goods we've already paid for that we are essentially waiting on delivery. All right. Specifically diving into the cost of the justice expansion. I received a new number today from RMO. Now, these numbers fluctuate weekly, sometimes daily, so that's why I've included a date here for my most recent numbers. Project costs of $38.3 million. As of today, the board has committed $28.2 million in funding, so our shortfall is $10.1 million. This is a large chart with a lot of numbers, but this is what myself, Keith, the clerk, we have come up with, trying to provide options to the board to help fill this $10 million gap in funding. So I'd like to walk through each of these individually. So first is our restricted court facilities account in Fund 11. This has a legal restriction on it. It can only be used for maintenance of court facilities. So it would meet the legal requirement of being able to be used for this expansion project. There's approximately just a little less than $1 million in there. We could drain that account and use it for the building. That would leave zero in that account. I do want to point out it took us 8 or 9 years to save that money. So I want the board to understand you should not take that lightly, draining that account. And then Fund 45.8, that's the trial court administrator's fund balance. That's Carlene Behringer, who spoke earlier today. She has about $1.5 million of fund balance. I would say we could use maybe $700,000 for the building. The last 2 years, she has gone over budget. So we need to save fund balance to absorb her budget overages. So that would leave her with $800,000. In Fund 10, we have $1 million assigned for healthcare expenses. We are a self-funded health plan, so that means the county is on the hook for our health insurance claims. We keep this $1 million in Fund 10 assigned as an extra cushion in case of an extraordinarily expensive claim that we may have to pay. Our health insurance consultants have often given me the example. They have another client who there was an employee who their infant required gene therapy, and it saved the baby's life, but it was $17 million. So we are one diagnosis away from, at some point, having to be able to pay that type of money. We do have varying levels of stop-loss insurance, but still, any extra cushion we can have for health insurance makes us feel much better as auditors. We could temporarily reassign that for the building, but I do want the board to make it a priority to rebuild that in future years. Next, we have $500,000 in Fund 10 assigned for grant match. I've put out here that we could use $300,000 towards the justice expansion. The $200,000 remaining, the Parks and Waterways Department is hoping to use that as grant match for a future grant, so I didn't want to include that. And obviously, I would want that rebuilt as soon as possible if we're going to use that. Next, in Fund 11, we have it hovers around $1.5 million assigned for building and grounds and jail capital projects. Now, this is just things that have to happen pretty much every year to maintain these facilities. So like repaving parking lots, jail sliders, things like that. I spoke with both departments and they said they would feel comfortable letting the board use $940,000 of their assigned fund balance, giving those departments $500,000 for the rest of this year, with the caveat that the board prioritize rebuilding that as soon as they can. Same thing for the next line. We have assigned fund balance for IT capital projects. It also tends to hover around $1.5 million. We could drain that down to $500,000 and use $875,000 towards the building. Same thing. They asked that I speak on their behalf, that the board please rebuild their fund balance as soon as possible. Fund 40, which is county assistance. This is a fund that it used to be a property tax supported fund, but legislation in the last couple of years took that authority away. And as a whole, the county assistance program has changed and been scaled down. So there's $2.7 million there. I would say we could probably use $2 million for the building. And then the remaining $700,000, the elections department under the clerk would still like that to be kept set aside as a 10-year plan budget for elections technology. Lastly, in Fund 11, our master plan account. That is where we took out and assigned $9 million for jail pods and $950,000 for the move to KC North. So after doing that, we have $3,038,000 left that could be utilized towards the building. So all of those potential funding sources total to $9.8 million. So if we throw that at our $10 million shortfall, then we only have $273 left to fully fund this building. Right now, we have $20.3 million in emergency funds. That was 2.5 months of FY23 expenses. However, our FY24 budget, we just started the new fiscal year, is obviously higher. We have higher wages. And so when that 20.3 million is reallocated amongst our new budget, that actually comes to 2.32 months of expenses. In the spring, the board will do a resolution deciding how many months to carry, again, in unassigned balance. If we had to pay for this building today, we'd probably have to take that shortfall, that 273,000 out of the emergency funds, which would bring us down to 20 million, 20.1 million, which would be 2.29 months of emergency funds. If you do that, in the spring, you have to rebuild your emergency funds, first and foremost, from the 273 you took. Then you have to build it back up to 2.5 months of FY24 level expenses, okay? So that's 1.8 million off the top that you hopefully can rebuild in the spring. Then I have these 3 layers of capital projects. In talking with other departments, things that they have coming up in the next couple of years, these are kind of the 3 major buckets of capital projects that I think the board also needs to prioritize saving fund balance for. This is things like generators and HVAC systems and patrol cars, things that we have to provide our mandated services. So that's $8.3 million. I don't want you to consider draining these fund balances lightly. If this is done, I want it done in a resolution. And I think it should be laid out in the resolution in what priority is the board going to rebuild all the fund balances that you're using. Our assigned fund balance does not grow a lot every year. Every once in a while, we will have a good year. Last year, we actually lost money in one of our general funds. So I don't want you to think that you can use all this money and just rebuild it in 1 year. That's not going to happen. It will take you time, and in the meantime, while you're rebuilding this money, you are going to have other projects to pay for. So it's just up to the board how you want to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very articulated well and well laid out. Thank you. All right. I think we're ready for public comment.
Could I ask a question real
Yes,
quick?
please.
Brandy, thank you so much for putting that together. For FY24's budget, how much cushion do we build into that?
$400,000 of cushion in a $141 million budget.
Yeah.
And to give, I was going to mention that. Thank you for reminding me. So just to give some context, one payroll for Kootenai County is over $3.2 million. So when you're talking about a cushion of $400,000, that really doesn't do much for me as an accountant. So that's how much just in payroll alone we're spending every 2 weeks.
Yeah. And we built that in by, this year, hopefully that, to cover any mid-year changes.
Right.
And reasonable unexpected expenses, and then also kind of banking on job vacancies that are not filled but are being taxed for to help cushion any kind of mid-year changes, in essence, with
Right.
this budget.
So basically, if our revenues come in at 100% as we budgeted and our expenses stay 100% within budget, we'll be good. But that doesn't happen. Sometimes expenses overrun what you think they're going to, and sometimes you collect more revenue than you think you're going to, vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
How many open positions do we have right
Maybe
now?
a Sylvia question. Last time I checked, it was around 100.
Okay. Any more questions, Bruce?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jefferson Douglas.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Jefferson Douglas. I am proud to serve as the newest prosecutor at the Kootenai County Prosecutor's Office. I stand before you today to emphasize the critical role this office plays in safeguarding our community from the challenges posed by the drug and crime epidemics. We are the backbone of justice, of the justice system, preventing the influx of crime from spilling over into our borders from our neighboring states. However, I want to draw your attention to a pressing issue. Right now, our prosecutors' offices across the state of Idaho are suffering a staffing shortage. I recently applied to prosecutors' offices all across the state, from here in Kootenai County to down in Twin Falls and all the way across to Bonneville County. And to my surprise, every office I applied to I got a job offer from. However, Kootenai County was significantly lower compared to other offices across the state, some of which offered signing bonuses and were housed in beautifully restored buildings with the promise of my own office. Now, let me explain to you why I chose to stay here in Kootenai County despite more lucrative opportunities elsewhere. Firstly, I believe in our community and the exceptional work that the Kootenai County Prosecutor's Office does. When I took the job here, I was told that I would have to take a position in a room that is called the Vault, which is a shared office among 4 other attorneys. This is a windowless office, and part of that promise was that one day I would be able to get an office of my own and get out of the Vault. This new office building. This promise is not just about a room with 4 walls. It is about providing an environment that fosters productivity, collaboration, and above all, commitment to justice. The new office space symbolizes our dedication to moving forward to progress and ensuring that we have the tools necessary to protect Kootenai County effectively. Now, fortunately, I've been able to move into my own office. Unfortunately, this is due to the retention issues that the office faces in recruiting and maintaining qualified attorneys. I found the people and work environment in the Kootenai County Prosecuting Attorney's Office to be exceptional in welcoming me in and training me. But at the same time, the staff there are performing miracles every day in managing the workload to providing the deterrence necessary to stop the scourge of crime from taking over this beautiful place we call home. Now to the issue at hand. The board here is considering moving our new office from the current plan for the courthouse expansion, leaving us in the old, outdated space that we've long outgrown. This decision puts us at a distinct disadvantage. It hinders our abilities to attract and retain the best candidates, impacting our effectiveness in addressing the challenges our community faces. If, as the board has claimed today, it is concerned with keeping criminals in jail and the community safe, then the first concern should be with the attorneys that ensure the safety of the community by keeping the criminals in jail. We are fighting an uphill battle against every other county in the state and putting the county at risk by stretching the bandwidth of the Kootenai County Prosecutor's Office by removing the top floor from the building. I urge the board to focus on the future and not what happened in the past, and that we need to do what is best for the Kootenai County by supporting the new office for the Kootenai County Prosecutor's Office within the new courthouse. Let's ensure our community safety and the strength of our justice system by providing the resources and environment necessary for success. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Questions for Jefferson? Okay. Thank you. Alan White.
I'm Alan White, from Idaho. Really disappointed in this whole project. I really am. I have a few questions. First of all, Bruce, what is this building in Kootenai or in Hayden that you're thinking about selling?
Well, the concept of selling has only been introduced tonight.
Right, no, but I mean, what building is it that, I didn't even know the county bought a building.
Kootenai Electric Building.
Yeah.
Kootenai Electric Building.
4 years ago, we bought Kootenai Electric Building for potentially satellite offices, motor vehicle licensing, driver's licensing.
How many square feet?
Oh my gosh, Corey, I'm sorry. 60,000, 70? Yeah.
Stan, that's your new office. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes care of the 4th floor.
Yeah.
So that's, the 4th floor is what? What, did I miss it? 9,000? I mean, 9 million? 10 million?
No.
How much was that?
It's the.
I had this in the way.
10 million is the difference between the ARPA funding and the total project cost.
What is the price difference if we take off the 4th floor?
I believe about,
6 million was the estimate.
no, Craig, you have the estimate, 3 million? Yeah. Yep, 3 million.
3 million a floor, okay, let's see, 3 times 4, so the building's 12 million then? How are we
No,
doing this?
I don't know. Craig, do you want to?
I just, you guys really screwed the pooch on this one. I mean, seriously, 22 million, what was it, 18 months ago, and now we're up to 38 million?
So once
That's-
again, with that slide that was presented up there, that was before the contractor got involved, and he showed how a building that was 24 million in 2018 is $35 million today. So.
Right, but I mean, in the meeting that we had, or that you had 16, 17 months ago was 22 million. And that's what the, I hope you fired them, the architects. Are they still around?
They're still around.
Oh, they're still around, okay. So
So-
mistake number one. Number two, nobody caught the fact that, for 22 million, you're looking at a, square foot product of $380 a square foot? Really? $380 a square foot? Who in their right mind? Thank goodness you guys picked it up. But for crying out loud, now we're up to 74% higher, 660 per square foot. Really? I mean, Bill called it months ago, but, and thank goodness Bruce has been digging into this, but, who was the firm or who had the expertise to sign off on these plans? Who stepped up and said, okay, you're gonna take a look at these plans, make sure we don't make a mistake? Has anybody do we have anybody that signed off on this? No.
So, hold on. We have it's a construction manager, general contractor situation here. So we went out for design, and then the construction manager, general contractor came on board. And the way that process works is they work with the design team, and they take the design and they make it fit our budget. So they start cutting
So
things out.
it's their fault.
No,
So
it's not at all.
Whose fault is it?
The-
I mean, do we have a guaranteed maximum price, a GMP?
Yes, we do.
We do. And what is that figure?
So 35 million for the construction, and then the soft costs are on top of that.
Okay, do we have a performance bond to make sure that this doesn't fall through the crack?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay, it still goes back from 22 to 35, and then we're gonna keep it under 35, and I appreciate all the, I don't wanna call them shortcuts, but staying underneath budget, that's fine. But it's only $3 or $4 million if we take off the 4th floor.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, I'm stuck on the math. 3 or 4 million a floor, and you got 4 floors. But, okay, I just, the big thing is, where do we go from here in the future? What other projects do we have that we're gonna believe that what you're doing is correct and it's not gonna cost us an arm and a leg? And then, plus there was no, notification, no public hearing, no, it's just, if you're interested, if not, we're just gonna slip this in and, it was 22, now it's 35. Oh, well, you can take it, and we're gonna strip the county of all the emergency funds down to 400,000? And the payroll is what, 1.3?
No.
So, if you don't make payroll one day, what are we gonna do? Because most of these people are underpaid anyway, and there's 100 positions that aren't even filled. And you wonder why? Really? So, I mean, I'm more than a little bit disappointed, but I'm thinking of the future. What other projects, big projects, are we gonna look at, and how are we supposed to trust you with that? Honestly, and I realize, and I appreciate you stepping up and saying, yeah, I made a mistake. But, this idea of, get it done, that's what cost us. That's what cost us. Now, if we were to stop today, how much would we be in the hole? If we stopped right now, how much would we lose? How much would this county have to pay out?
We'd have to.
Ballpark.
Yeah.
If we stop
think-
today, right now, how much would we be in the hole?
Pat, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but you're the legal expert on how much we would owe on the signed contracts. So,
Best guesstimate.
We would have to get,
No, best guesstimate.
Am I on?
I know we'd have to do this and that, but guesstimate, what are we, 3 million, 4 million? We broke ground when, September? We broke ground
I'm
September.
not gonna speculate right here, but it would likely be several $1 million.
Several million. So do we stop now at a loss of several million, rethink this, and, go back to the drawing board
and pay more for it in the
and
future.
pay more for it? You're right. Inflation is going up. And it would have been cheaper, but it wouldn't have been cheaper, because $1 6 months ago bought a lot more than $1 does today.
Yep.
And for crying out loud, the cost, 74% from 22 million to 35 million, and it's just sort of a, oops.
No, it's
I
not an
agree.
oops. Trust me, it has not been an oops. It has
Well,
been
okay, then, all right,
a shock.
So somebody did it on
okay, Alan,
purpose
I'm
then.
gonna, no, not at all.
no?
No. So I need other people to have a chance to speak, and
Has it been
since it's
3
already
minutes?
been, oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
it has been 3 minutes.
I'm having a good
So,
time.
Yeah. Don
Okay,
Ferguson,
so-
please.
No flashing lights.
My name is Don Ferguson. I'm in the county of Rathdrum, and pretty new to this process. Hearing all the things tonight as a resident, very disappointed. I would expect those that are sitting here and others that are involved in the process would have done due diligence, vetted the process better. I've built a lot of projects in my time, and it's hard for me to swallow some of the discussion I hear here tonight. So I think a lot of the things that have been identified tonight as the problems, let that stand for itself, but what are the solutions moving forward to protect the money, the project, the success? Heard mention about a third party, which probably been brought in the beginning, because apparently the individuals involved do not have the proper construction experience to have vetted this project. I've been in projects up to $200 million, and I just have never seen this kind of conduct. So you can't fix what's happened, but moving forward, so that you put things in place, you implement policies so that the same people that were making these decisions aren't the ones that will be interviewing and vetting this third party. This third party is probably going to save the day, along with this construction company that is unusual, okay? Usually they're money grabbers, and it's refreshing to see someone that's worried about the community and our money. So I guess my question is that with you moving forward with the consideration of a third party, so for construction oversight, how is that going to take place?
So that's what we're going to discuss on Thursday, is if the board agrees to hire this person, I will actually have a name to present on Thursday along with a budget.
So I just my suggestion is that I think you need to interview several, because the balance of success with this third party working in conjunction with the construction company is paramount. You just can't say overnight that you're going to seek a third party and say, well, we're going to bring somebody's name up for this. I think there's got to be a panel or something that is able to decide the qualifications before you start considering hiring anybody. Because there's a lot of people that say that they understand construction management, and then there's some that don't. So I'm not confident in the process that brought us here. Those individuals that made these decisions to put us at risk is unfortunate. I would hope that there would be enough vision within this body to say that we made a mistake, lack of communication, whatever you want to say, but moving forward, I think you should know your limitations.
Yes.
And know that you need to reach out to those that are probably going to save your neck. Because if my property taxes have to go up as a result of the mismanagement of where we are at the moment, I think there are a lot of people that are going to be upset about it. So I appreciate the candor tonight. I know it's been uneasy for a lot of people to hear. It's refreshing. I think learn from your mistakes. It sounds like what I just heard would be another mistake. I think you need to vet this process so that that individual or company that's working with side by side, there's so much to this third party that you don't understand, that for the success of this project.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Charity.
Good evening. So I'm going to address the 2-ton elephant in the room that everyone seems to have amnesia about. First, for the record, I am Charity Joy. I'm here as an American citizen and a property owner in the unincorporated part of Kootenai County. And my neighbors and I are the ones who suffer the largest part of the tax burden to fund county services. I've listened to a lot of talk about these capital projects being necessary to enable the continuation of the constitutionally protected rights of citizens. On its face, this explanation sounds reasonable and obviously supports the proper role of government, which is to secure people's rights and our prosperity. However, the reality of our current situation does not support these rather casually spoken words. Allow me to set the record straight. In March of 2020, the Idaho Supreme Court implemented rules and procedures that fundamentally destroyed the people's constitutionally protected rights. For over 2 years, they flagrantly abused the very Constitution they had sworn an oath to protect and defend. And every single elected official at the county level and within the first judicial district either participated in the deprivation of rights or did nothing to end their abuses. The Idaho Supreme Court placed all of us in a constitutional crisis, and those elected to serve as our representatives failed at every level to meet the crisis and repudiate the justices who sat in their ivory towers, lording their personal, ideological, and political bent against the people. In the name of public safety, the Idaho Supreme Court altered, suspended, or abused the following constitutionally protected enumerated rights in the Idaho Constitution. Article 1, Section 1, inalienable rights of man. Article 1, Section 5, the right of habeas corpus. Article 1, Section 7, the right to a trial by jury, a key provision being in open court. Article 1, Section 9, freedom of speech. Article 1, Section 10, the right of assembly. Article 1, Section 11, the right to keep and bear arms. Article 1, Section 13, guarantees in criminal actions and due process of law, key provisions being a speedy trial, appear in person, and not to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. Article 1, Section 18, justice to be freely and speedily administered. Key provision, courts of justice must be open to every person. Article 1, Section 22, the right of crime victims. Key provisions, treated with fairness and respect, timely disposition, and to be present at all criminal proceedings. This list is by no means complete. It's just the ones that happen to stand out to me while struggling to understand why I am being forced to reward a corrupt judicial system who has not been held to account for their actions that shredded the foundation of our legal system, which is enshrined into the rights of the people to fair and impartial treatment of all citizens. I recognize that there are current elected officials at the county level who assumed their offices after the Idaho Supreme Court instituted their rules and procedures. I recognize the office of sheriff, prosecutor, clerk, and the Board of Commissioners are in a precarious web of linked jurisdictional authority with the judicial branch. But these realities are exactly the point. All of these county offices act as checks and balances on the breach of public trust by the other government branches. There should be a full audit to account for the scale of the first judicial district's deprivation of rights and obscene abuses by the judicial system against the citizens. There should be a promise made by every single elected official
to do everything within their power to keep the Idaho Supreme Court in check going forward, including but not limited to the courage to sue them over their unconstitutional rules and regulations, to place county employees who aid and abet the violations of people's rights on unpaid administrative leave, and to arrest bailiffs and judges who enforce the illegal mandates by the Idaho Supreme Court. Never again should be clear and unequivocal message. I will never forget witnessing the bullying and arresting tactics by bailiffs and judges during the COVID mandate insanity. It was a gut-wrenching experience to watch a judge, sitting in the comfort of his own domain and without a face mask, further subjugate an incarcerated citizen who was being forced to teleconference a pretrial hearing by harshly and arrogantly demanding the citizen fully cover his mouth and nose with a face mask before the court proceedings could continue. I will never forget being accosted and surrounded by 3 bailiffs for having the courage to conduct business in the county clerk's office without complying with the illegal and unconstitutional mask mandate in the summer of 2021. And I hope those 3 bailiffs never forget the severe tongue lashing I gave them for being un-American and immoral in the execution of their duties. Just doing my job is the mantra that Nazi Germany showed the world. Do we really want to give that to American citizens here in Kootenai County? I have more to address concerning the capital projects, but for now, I would like the commissioners to know that the population issues, the overpopulation issues at the jail place us in a precarious, did I say that word right?
Precarious.
I don't know. Anyhow, thank you, predicament. And it can't continue. Therefore, finishing the jail pod should be priority number 1. Furthermore, the prosecutor's office can be accommodated with expanded facilities without spending $40 million. I agree with Prosecutor Mortensen that his office cannot continue to properly meet their constitutional obligations in the current conditions. Finally, please find another solution to the court spaces. Giving them authority over a shiny new $40 million building after they have shown an arrogant and unrepentant disregard for citizens' rights is not acceptable. Sitting here tonight and listening to your subject matter expert on county finances, your director of finances, being kept in the dark was shocking to say the least. I agree with the previous speaker, Dawn, who said that you need to interview for the third party to do the project management oversight. I just want to conclude with that there has been a serious lack of humility and violations of oaths of office, and they really do demand a full accountability and corrective action. If they remain undressed, I'm afraid you're going to leave the people with our last constitutionally protected right, which is enumerated in Article 1, Section 8 of the Idaho Constitution, which is political power is inherent in the people, which means we will have the right to alter, reform, or abolish the government whenever we deem it necessary. I wouldn't get so comfortable as to think that we only apply that at the federal level. I think it could easily start here at home with the continued abuses against our fundamental rights to life, liberty, equal protection, and due process of law. Thank you.
Thank you. Leilani? Yes.
My name is Leilani, and my question is mostly on the general contractor. Who exactly was the first one, the original?
The original contractor?
Original.
This is the original contractor.
You are the original contractor?
Yes.
So you were the one who submitted the quotes, the
Yes,
bidding?
but not for 22 million. That was the architect. The architect gave an estimation for the 22 million. Then when the actual construction manager came on board, they said, no, this is a way more expensive building.
So where did the architect
I don't know.
get? Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There is the problem, okay? I worked for a real estate, finance, and business attorney for 20 years. And I've burnt out on lots of real estate and contractors and bids and all that stuff. Anyway, The architect is the one who gives out the specs or whatever it is, you know, and give it out for bidding from several contractors, not just one. And the contractors each would submit their bidding to the architect, and that's where the architect will present to you. Whoever is the most reasonable price, or not necessarily the lowest, but the ones who have really checked every kind of specifications, okay? Checked, is the one that you grant the contract to. My husband worked for Bouten Construction for all his life in Santa Monica. He was a superintendent, one of the superintendent. Okay, and he knows all this process. And I talk to him about it when he comes in home and talk to me about it. So pretty much between my lawyer attorney that I work for and my husband, you know, I know what goes on. I know what's supposed to go on. So there's, okay, the change order, the contractor is supposed to be the one to provide you with a superintendent. You are not obligated, we are not obligated, that should be part of their salaried personnel, okay? That's what my husband did. When Bouten Construction accepts a bid or something like that for a project, then whoever is the manager then assigns it to the superintendent. Okay? So, I don't know. That's where the problem lies. Where did the first numbers come from? Were there any investigation as to where it came from and who gave it? And if whoever gave it has the professional ability to really make that bid?
So, yeah, I cannot answer that, but
Okay, anyway.
that's the typical process of, they give us an estimate, then when the construction manager came on, then they told us exactly how much it was, and that's why this board voted to move ahead with the project, even though it had come in so much more than what we had originally.
It should not have gone. Anyway, do you know kind of what the process is supposed to be? Do you kind of understand what I'm trying to say?
There's many.
Okay, where it starts and who's responsible? I mean, that thing there, where it starts. And besides, there are change orders that are submitted, supposedly submitted, when there are changes to something, even the change of dollars. And it needs to be justified by the contractor.
Okay.
To you, to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's not done. I'm serious. Oh, my God. And no, the contractor usually, conventionally advances all the costs and fees for themselves and for the subcontractors, okay?
Thank you.
Once a phase is done.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have more
I
people
know,
to get
but you
to,
have
so
you have
thank
to know
you.
this.
But
Once a phase is done.
there are many ways to do that in the state of Idaho.
There's only one way to do it. In
Tim,
construction.
Tim Plass?
Depends on how long.
Very upsetting.
I'd like to be done by 8:30. So I'm Tim Ploss from Rathdrum area. I'm not here to criticize the process or how you got to this point. I guess I would say in general, tax dollars by officials can be spent for legitimate government use. So it appears that the jail pod, the sheriff office, justice center expansion are legitimate government uses. How to, whether that's the cheapest building or the type of style we wanted, that's a different question that
the officials would have to answer. Taxpayers should object if the county tries to fund projects that don't have a legitimate use, say a business project or something. Some cities have built sports arenas for professional sports, and that is not a legitimate government use. If there was a hypothetical downtown hotel that developers didn't want to build, but the county really wanted it, they shouldn't be able to build that. It's not a legitimate use. Another example is purchasing farmland in county open space for the benefit of a very few who walk dogs and ride bikes, and that's not a legitimate government purpose. The aquifer is already protected, one house septic system per 5 acres, unless it's on a city sewer system. New developments are required to provide open spaces for parks. People will still walk their dogs by trespassing on the nearest fields instead of driving to a distant open space. And it's going to increase county management cost. If a project is needed and legitimate, taxpayers should be able to vote on a bond, as is being done for this open space. The example, I-90 Greens Ferry overpass in Post Falls should have been approved this way instead of an unelected URD board using redirected tax dollars. These county projects that we're talking about should be funded by a bond approved by taxpayers. Is this solution being avoided? I know it's late in the game, but the taxpayers should be able to vote on this and approve it. 10.5 million overrun should not be funded by robbing funds from future projects. So 4 of those line items I look at are reallocate from funds for future use. 4 of the line items are taking from funds that are already allocated for something else. The robbing of these future funds is, as has been pointed out, will literally take multiple, maybe a dozen years of maximum 3% county tax increases on all of us to replenish them. And then you're still short, $1 million. And what about the future overruns? Are you going to find more funds to rob from? So my request is please do not reallocate existing funds that will inevitably raise our taxes in the future. Do whatever you can to put a bond out to fund this and let the voters decide. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ramona Grissom.
Hello, Commissioners. I wasn't too sure if I was going to speak tonight or not, but sort of taken aback by the conversation I've heard tonight. For those who are new to the area, this is a conversation we've been having for 30 years. Go back and look at the history. Every sheriff before our current sheriff brought the same thing by the same numbers for the overcrowding. Sounds like, we know this is coming with the growth, but it's not a new conversation. The conversation about the cost, I'm a little confused. I understand the 22 to the 35. The 35 was approved by the board, but then there's $3.5–4 million of additional costs. Is that what I'm hearing?
So the construction is 35 million, then the soft cost, which was the signed contracts for the architect and plus all the permitting and fees. That's what has.
Okay, so that's the discrepancy then that Mr. Matari, Commissioner Matari wasn't clear on or wasn't shared, however we came. So we're talking $3.5 million. So we're talking 3.5 homes in Kootenai County, if we put it properly in perspective. We're obviously, I've heard a lot of talk about everything else that needs to be done, but I haven't heard much about the juvenile justice system, and they just always seem to be thrown in the corner, and they have for the 30 years I've been here and had this conversation for 30 years. I think we are already here. The project already started unless we're willing to fund backing out of the project. But then I would agree if that is what the board decides to do, that it does need to go to the voters. But the bottom line is we're gonna have to build a building, right? The bottom line is we're gonna have to add on to the jail, right? It's the same numbers. Go back and Google it. Look at the history. It's the same conversation we've been having. And eventually, you know, we get somewhere. It's still the same 100 inmates that put us over, under, whether we were shipping them down south or to another state. It's the same conversation. So if we're talking $3.5 million, because 35 million was already approved by the board, if the 3.5 million is just in discrepancy, I'm sure that the KEC building on Dakota would bring at least that. And so you could finish the project, we could move on, we could quit pitting neighbor against neighbor, because bottom line is we're all neighbors, even though we have some other lapel pin on, and we can just move forward. We know we have to do it. We know we've had this conversation forever. Sell the building, finish the project, and then move to the pods.
Thank you. Summer Bushnell?
Pardon my voice, I've been a little sick, so. Let's see, I have two questions, but I feel like these are both equally important. Right now, it seems like there's an argument over, is the jail pods more important or the Justice Center? I am usually not for saying, hey, I'll take a 3% tax increase. But these are such vital services. Me, who hates all taxes, would be okay with that, believe it or not. I do think going to a vote would be a good thing. I think a lot of this, like Ramona mentioned, the buck keeps getting passed for decades by elected officials. This problem could have been solved 5 years ago or more. So some of this is you three are stuck with other people's problems. They've been passing the buck for years. I don't think we should stop this project because they're both really needed. But I guess I have two questions. Is there one more priority than the other, jail or justice, or is that what we're discussing tonight? Or has it already been decided?
So my understanding is that the $950,000 for the move to Hayden, that would solve a lot of the deficiencies and deficits that we went over. So while I'm still in favor of the move, it's not as imperative as the Justice Center and the jail pods.
Okay. And then when the person that talked the budget, what's ARMO? Is that related to ARPA?
Resource Management Office, who's been managing the ARPA process.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Is there anybody else who did not turn in a form who would like to speak?
I'm going now, but I have one more.
No. Sorry, Leilani, thank you.
Seriously.
My name is James. I don't usually speak at these things. You know, we're at the point now where it's lessons learned. You know, first off, the ARPA money, federal money. Why in the hell? Why in the hell? Okay? The other elephant in the room is the developers. The unholy marriage between politicians, bureaucrats, and developers. You got high-density growth coming here. What do you think is going to happen? You think this is bad? What I know, this is just a drop in the bucket of what's coming. If we continue on the path that we're going right now, if you don't get this growth under control and find out what's really important, this is going to get worse. That building won't be big enough. 10 years from now, you'll need 2 of those. 10 years from now, you'll need 5 times the jail space. And this thing, we're cannibalizing ourselves. You know, everybody wants to line their pockets. Everybody wants to sit in the gold dome. I was in the military for a long time. You know, we had a little saying, adapt, improvise, and overcome. No matter what your hardship was, the mission had to get completed. Okay? Here, it's like, oh, do I have a window in my office? Oh, I'm a little bit cramped. Oh, I'm a little uncomfortable. Well, embrace the suck. You know, really, serious.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, this is serious business. Because now it's 3% more tax, and you think that's gonna go away? No, because bureaucrats and politicians don't give you back your money. All they do is add more. Yeah, I did contract fraud investigation for the military, one of my last deployments. And it was the government that was more responsible for the fraud than the contractors. Billions of billions of your dollars I watched.
Sir, I'm sorry, address the board.
You know, I watch it squandered. And that's what I'm watching happen here, okay? Because this should have been something addressed a long time ago. No forethought, no foresight, no planning. And which equates exactly to what Bill said, a lack of leadership. Where I came from, people would be court-martialed and their careers would be in the dumper for this crap. So, yeah, it's frustrating to watch this go on. You know, because I'm a refugee from California first and then from Washington. And I watched that progression. And this is it. This is it. This is the corruption. Whether it's through negligence or incompetency or a combination of both, this is the corruption that's going to destroy this area. People better get right. That's all I've got to say. I can pick up and move. And I will again if I have to, but this is where I really want to draw my line in the sand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan, anybody on Zoom who wants to speak?
Mr. Hartman, if you want to speak, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First, I'd like to congratulate Bruce for all the work he's done and how he's looked after the taxpayers' money. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate it. Second of all, my problem is nobody is looking at options. I agree that we've got a problem with space. I agree we've got a problem with jailing. But what is not being proposed is other options. I've lived in many states from coast to coast and border to border, and have heard about jail overcrowding. There are other options than buying a gold-plated building of materials to do this job. In an interim, until we can figure out the actual cost and get it right, maybe we need to move the prisoners to another jail somewhere else. The state of Texas is one that takes on a lot of prisoners from other states. I think that this should be a proposal that's looked at. Another one, the crowding with the justice people and the judges and everything. I was at Ford Motor Company, and when we would have large expansions and we couldn't get the building or the stuff that we needed in time, we brought in mobile trailer offices and put them up. I think these are options that are not being looked at that could ease the situation immediately so that we don't have to rush into spending money on a building we don't know the cost of. The other one, the materials that are being used in this building and the cost per square foot need to be seriously reviewed and see why it costs so much per square foot and why this building cost can't be brought down with the same amount of square feet for far less money. And also, somebody needs to be held accountable for what's happened. And that accountability needs to be they're fired. This kind of action in private industry is unacceptable, and people pay the consequences of losing their job for it. Thank you for your time, and Bruce, thank you for bringing this to the taxpayer notification. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan, anyone else on Zoom?
If anybody else on Zoom would like to speak, go ahead and unmute yourself. Going once, going twice.
All right. Anybody in the audience? Okay. You had some closing remarks?
Yes. Thank you. Well,
Oh, I'm so sorry. I had a written one. Jeff Tyler, I believe this time the Justice Center should be priority, then the jail pods. Time is of the essence. Sorry.
so what did we learn tonight? Well, the bright side is that the construction company is actually coming in below their budget. So that's one positive note here. The reality is that the issue is not the Justice Center expansion. The issue is the communication breakdown that the project lead stated earlier. That breakdown has led this board to make multi-million-dollar decisions under a false set of assumptions and we cannot reverse it. The response was largely, oops, it won't happen again. Frankly, it's the first time I've ever heard this, that there was a communication breakdown. Thank you. Because we've had several meetings since I raised this, and it has not been brought up. And I've been getting emails all of a sudden after I raised a real stink about this, regularly giving me updated cost figures. Never got them before. Never. Our finance director is getting them too. You know, and anyone who wants to review the past meetings will see me express great concern about the costs escalating. Will we have enough money to pay for this? And throughout this process, I've been assured that everything would be fine. And I do have a question, and it really has always kind of just weighed on me, and that is why on March 21st, you know, why did you say 6 million, we could pull 6 million from the savings of 15 million, $6 million to pay for the Justice Center expansion, and $6 million for the jail pods? Where did that number come from?
I'd have to go back and watch the meeting. So I don't know. I take copious notes. I have it. So I don't know, Bruce, but all along I have had confidence that we've had money to finish those two projects. And what I will say is that these sheriff pods came in at 7.2 million as just an estimate. And so instead of putting 6 million towards it, the board changed priorities and put 9.5 million towards it. So that has caused one of the deficits with the Justice Building. And, well, go ahead, finish.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was my concern, is that throughout this entire process, I've been assured that we could do both projects. And it was such a shock to me to see these numbers and continue to go up so quickly, that was the reason this past Tuesday I suggested that we allocate this money for the jail pods, because you had been emphasizing so much that we could do this. And yet, you know, I see these numbers coming in, and how can I have confidence with any of these numbers? 7.6 million doesn't mean anything at this point, because we don't have anyone managing this process who knows what they're doing.
And that was a quote from the sheriff, provided by the Sheriff's Department.
Well, fine, but my point is that we've gotten so many quotes, and they don't seem to come through. And so, you know, if they come in less, great, we have extra money that can go back into this. But given the way that this other project has been managed, and all of this information that's being used to make these decisions, I mean, if we had a discussion in March about $38.3 million and where that money would come from, I know we wouldn't be here. But, you know, I think the part that's hard for me is just the fact that we had to have this public hearing. We had to have these meetings where a real stink was being made, where demands were made for more transparency. Demands were made that our finance director be included on meetings now, that we needed to have a public hearing where, like I said, for the first time, I got to hear that there was this huge breakdown in communication. And so the good news is that we will have our finance director in these meetings, and we will have more transparency. And the real takeaway from this is that, you know, if we're going to do these projects, we're drawing down our savings to where that margin of error is pretty much gone. We have to be perfect moving forward. And all that extra cushion that's been built into these budgets in the past, they cannot continue. We're not going to be able to pay for our capital projects with 1 year of bad revenues, 1 year of expenses that come in much higher. We'll just keep depleting our savings. And so the public needs to know this. They need to know the consequences of how this project has been managed, how the information has, well, broken down, and what the cost of that is. And so I thank everyone for coming out, and I very much appreciate your comments and what you have to say. It definitely weighs on me. So thank you.
So I'll just finish by saying a couple things. I stepped up. No other commissioner knocked and said, hey, you know what, I want to take that. So they didn't. So no good deed goes unpunished. Yes, there's been mistakes made. There's communication going forward. I do want to point out that 2.32 months, 2.29 months, that is our cash reserves for emergencies. So the other amount of money is to be spent on projects. So this is what this money is for. It's what it's built for. It's to do these projects. So I would do 1,000 things different. We are making solutions in the future. Get a construction manager. The sheriff's department has been given the jail pods. So yeah, here's where we're at, folks. I do appreciate you coming out.
Before you end the meeting.
Okay, sure. And I do want to say that we had many, many ARPA meetings for the public to talk about this building being paid for by ARPA instead of taxpayers. So the taxpayers are funding about $10 million of this building and ARPA the rest. So it's one of those things that it's ugly, and 30 years ago, the commissioners who built this building, same thing. The commissioners actually who ended up building the jail, it was voted down twice, and they ended up saving money, and I think it was from a sales tax option or something to gain that money. So here's where we're at, folks. I promise I've only ever had the taxpayers and the citizens in mind going through this. And I never would have even embarked on this if I didn't absolutely, completely believe that this building is completely necessary. So, Bill?
I left the Republican Party about a year ago to be independent because what I found in Kootenai County is the conservatives in the party are very conservative until it comes to spending somebody else's money. Then and we're seeing that, and this is an example of that. We should have been pulling back. We should have this before the voters on a referendum. We really should, a bond or something, so that people can, because then the commissioners have to go out, if we believe in it, and sell it. And I'd be willing to do that if I felt we needed it, and I might. But at this point, the way we've done it is secretive. It's not upfront, and that's why Leslie says the board voted for it. That doesn't mean the entire board voted for it. That means 2-1, 2-1. It's 2-1, and it's been that way on many, many, many votes this year. And anybody with the county who attends these meetings can attest to that. So all I can say is I'll be part of trying to do better. And please, this isn't the last I want to hear from people in the audience or the voters. Please call, please send emails. Let's find out where we're at.
So, Bill, I just have a couple questions for you. Number one, did you suggest that we go out for bond when we were originally looking at doing a?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did. And we discussed it with Steve Matheson, and I don't know if I talked with you about it, but the bottom line is the voters might say no.
So you didn't bring it before the Board of Commissioners to make that decision? Is that what I'm understanding?
No, because I was told I wouldn't be heard.
Okay. Then the other is June 26, 2023, you did vote yes to bring the project forward.
Yes, but I'd have to look at what you're saying I said yes to.
Okay.
But I have consistently voted against everything that's related to ARPA.
Yeah, but also in fairness, on March 21st, we did have a motion, and I made that motion because Commissioner Duncan, when I asked the question, when will we get our final numbers, Commissioner Duncan did say in August. And August was before we broke ground. And so that motion was that and I remember saying this to Commissioner Brooks, let's say yes today and decide in August.
When we see the numbers.
That's right. So that motion was to move, to spend fund balance, to agree to to agree to spend fund balance today, but our final decision would be in August. And we never got those numbers, and that project started breaking ground. And again, this is one of those, where was the follow-up? Why didn't we have these things that we were being told were going to happen? Why were we allowed to continue to say yes on things, hoping that we were working off good information? And here we are, a month after that we've broken ground, and we're looking at depleting our savings, our extra savings. I realize we have emergency savings, but our extra savings. And we still need to replenish our money, our capital funds for the future $5 to $7 million in expenses that we have. So that has to be on top of what we have for our emergency savings.
What was the legal reason we had to do this hearing tonight?
No legal reason.
Pardon?
No, there was no legal reason.
Oh, I understood. We had to hurry up and do this thing Monday night.
Oh, because we have to make a big decision tomorrow in our business meeting, whether to continue.
And why is that? What do we have to make a big decision on?
Because it's hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. You have to make a decision, and if you don't, it'll cost the county millions. And that's one of the things that I really hope moving forward, that this board is presented with all of the facts and figures with plenty of time to look at them, to reflect on them, and then have a meeting to talk about it. And not have these hurry, 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 you got to do this or else it'll cost the county millions of dollars. I just don't think that's fair for this board to be presented with those kinds of decisions.
And Mr. Shelby will be presenting where we're at tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. here, and then we'll be making a vote tomorrow at 2 p.m. So thank you all for coming out. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Good job. Oh, they should. Nobody wants to.
Goodbye.